Saturday night, and everybody in North America that's interested in ACW should be right here on this channel right now. Watch, that number's going to start growing. Watch the thing. I guarantee it, because this one I have been after for a while. Thank God Todd knew you, and knew how to get hold of you. So, guys, we brought Nick Rose on here tonight. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this probably a couple of years now, I guess. But we got Nick on here. We're going to talk a little bit of ACW. We're going to talk some Line of Battle. We're going to talk about his. I pre-ordered, so it's on pre-order now. We said Inferno in the Bluegrass, right? Perryville, yep. And we're going to get into this Line of Battle thing tonight, because I was a minimal hater initially when I got it, but after messing around, of course, the first one I played was Take Washington, and you commented in my video saying probably not the one you wanted to start with, and you were much right, because then I played Last Chance for Victory, had some headaches with it, but now that the Thunder one has come out here, or the No Turning Back, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the other version. No Turning Back's come out. I'm starting to understand things in the system better and what effect it has on it. So let's see what we got in the chat. Ross visiting. Ross, wish you could be on here with us tonight, buddy, but I hope the move goes well. Slav's here. Telemachus here. Chuck's always here. Manry Mike's here. Who else we got in here? We got Peter, from across the way, down under. Arthur, good to see you. Arthur, you get your game yet? You get your 3-dog I sent you yet? And, man, we got all the gang on here tonight. Just Ross and McMurray not here. So, Phil, glad you joined us. Mark, glad you're here with us tonight. So, we're gonna kick this over to Todd. And Todd's gonna drag Nick through the mud a little bit, and then I'm gonna finish him off with more mud. Okay, because I got a whole bunch of things I'm gonna gripe to his about. Yeah, but it's all good. It's all good stuff on his end. So
Jeff's upset with Nick.
Okay. Don't worry, I can mute Hexy if we need to. Don't worry about
it. I'll take it. I probably deserve it.
Yeah. So Jeff, you want to share my screen, or Alan? Share my screen real quick. I got the main, the new game up there. So this is it, Inferno in the Bluegrass. Go to MMP. The link, I posted the link in the private chat, guys, if you want to put that in some of the things there. But here it is. Pre-order number reached, of course, $475 at $350. So that's cool. $48. Seems pretty good. I like the box art's nice and fun. We're going to be looking at the Vassal mod and counters and all that. So I'm not going to zoom in on that, but there's all the business. We're just going to talk to Nick a little bit about that. So that is that on that. Let me stop sharing that screen now. So Nick, while I'm not just sitting here watching people watch me do that, why don't you give a little, the standard thing. So let me tell you, you did an interview with the MMP guys, Brian and Kurt. We're Not Dead Yet podcast, or whatever they call it. They usually talk about ASL, but they do bring in some of the other lines, and they included Nick on one. And they did a nice intro about you and your stuff, but a lot of people may not have seen that. So just do a little intro about your gaming history a little bit. You got to bring up Uncle John, unless you guys are on the outs or something, you don't want to talk about him, but it's a big part of your gaming life and part I know. And
who's this, Nick?
Yeah, there we go.
There he is. He's already pestering me. The guy he just can't let me be.
So why don't you give a little story about him and what you're gaming, and then I'll switch screens. So go ahead.
Yeah, so my gaming life kind of started back in high school. My Uncle John, we can blame him for that. Axis and Allies is probably where I really started. There's a helicopter flying right over my house, so that's nice. But he kind of got me exposed to some of the actual, what I would consider actual counter war games and, paper maps and things like that. We played A Victory Denied, A Victory Lost, Mighty Endeavor, things like that when I was maybe in high school, late high school. Exposed me to ASL. Apparently he had an extra ASL binder that he pawned off on me that stayed with me. So he knew how to try to hook, line, and sinker me, and he succeeded. But I went through a foray where I was obsessed with Ambush. That was really the first game that I picked up on eBay, taught myself. And that's kind of where I really found the niche that I liked was the narrative. I loved the narrative of gameplay. I could, write up a little story or make up a little story about what happened. So I spent a lot of time with Ambush, went to college, got out of college, and then, I didn't have a girlfriend or anything for a long time, so it was just me and the dog. Every Thursday, Uncle John and I would get together. We played a lot of ASL, started getting into OCS, GCACW. Civil War was always my main interest as a kid, but I never found a game system that I was really drawn to that was at the tactical level. I don't know why that was. I know there was a ton of games out there, but being younger, I was not exposed to any of the games that were out.
No.
Oh, sorry. That's my bad.
Don't.
That was
You
me.
cut me
Sorry.
off.
Yeah,
that
I'm
was
sorry.
like you said.
Man, you are going to be messing with me.
We're gonna lock him out now.
Wow.
My bad.
So I remember looking at maps of like these Civil War games, and I was like, "These are hideous. I'm not playing that." I'm very much I need the components to look good. So I was a little prima donna when it came to that. Eventually, we got into like GCACW, and we love that. And we've kind of played a lot of different things at this point. But in hindsight, I kind of look at it, and I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, how did I get into gaming? I mean, I was always a big history kid. So I was always that nerd that knew stuff about World War II or the American Civil War or whatever it was. And, I was out in the sandbox playing with the little plastic army soldiers. And I think at one point I had like a miniatures game that I actually created using, the different little plastic soldiers and things like that. So cool. I've always kind of had a creative bone when it came to the game side. But I found recently, and especially with Line of Battle, is it was a tool for me to learn about the history. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I think I've really found my niche in gaming. I don't game nearly as much as I used to. I wish I had more time to, but I love it. I still buy stuff when it interests me. That's mostly going to be ACW, World War II, Vietnam stuff. That's really kind of my core interest. And eventually I feel like I'll be able to find time to play a little bit more. It's tough with little kids, but that's kind of just a quick synopsis.
What was the first? I know you just went through all this. What was your very, very first Civil War game?
Man, I don't know. I honestly don't know. It had to maybe be something that I had picked up on my own and played. It might have been Last Chance for Victory, to be honest, unless we had played. It might have been Stonewall Jackson's Way 2. I think I bought that and had soloed it a couple times and got Uncle John to play that with me. We might have played something smaller that I don't remember, but I think that was probably the first meaty system game that we played on Vassal together. Okay. And that was probably 2016, 2017, maybe.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so where I first learned about you is watching, and I don't know whose channel this is on, but so you and your Uncle John you'd play like all day Saturdays sometimes, or I don't know, you kind of get, and you guys would video your games, not the full things or anything, but like kind of report in like maybe 2 or 3 times a day or something, because you'd play all day, like you'd play ASL and so whatever, you'd play a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And those are always just fun to listen to because you guys just have a loose, fun attitude about it. And then John's got a pretty good channel. I don't know, John, if you've played something lately, but he plays Library Napoleonic Battle. He's been doing a lot of that. And he's got some really good videos out there too, guys, just him playing games and them making mistakes and doing dumb rolls and doing good things and bad things. It's really fun to watch him play. So that's where I first discovered you. And then you and I connected at this super secret con that happens here in St. Louis that we shall not talk about, that no one's invited to. Except for us. Anyway, that's where I first met you in person. And,
yeah, and I think those were live stream videos probably that you were watching. That I don't know that those were available to the general public. I don't remember.
Oh,
if they were like our weekend games where we would stay up way too late. Yeah, we would
maybe invite a little something.
Maybe
now
smidge.
That you've mentioned videos, let's go down.
Oh yeah,
Slam Nick Road #1.
Yeah, here we go.
So a bunch of years back, when I decided to come back into gaming, as I look around my shelves, all these damn games, I'd always had like Terrible Swift Sword and a bunch of other stuff, and I hung on to them for years. Didn't really play. And then I think it was a rainy night. One night I opened my claws. I said, oh, let's play that. And I got it out. Before the night was over, I was online looking for, just other stuff. What have I missed in so many years? And I come across somebody in their freaking garage with a crayon drawn map and stuff playing. And then I saw some tutorials. Before the night was over, and this is your fault completely, I spent $3,200 that night collecting Line of Battle, Civil War Brigades. Thank God I had a buddy that I run into that lives down the road here that had a shrink rip copy of Last Chance for Victory. So you pulled $3,200 out of my pocket the very first night back in gaming, and wow, that's a big chunk of money.
Go tell that to MMP. I know. Where's my commission check?
Worth every penny. So good for you. Good for you. So
I remember them talking about that. That's crazy. 32.
Those videos. I think I got a lot of really positive feedback when I did those, and that was just kind of something. I was so enamored with the series at the time that I felt like it was kind of just my way of giving back to it, was to be able to do those. So I've had a lot of people reach out and just tell me how appreciative they were about those videos. So cool to hear that.
Well, these people, we're going to get into this later once Todd gets going here. We're going to talk about the rules with 2.0 and then 3.0 because I got a few questions I want to ask too. But well, put it this way: you and I think is it Lee that does the tutorials from MMP?
Oh, yeah, Lee Forster.
Lee Forster. That's it. And I'm one of these that I like to do some instructionals. And I thought about those. I'm like, why do I need to do them? They've already been done, and they're fine. They're perfect. And I believe me, when I got this no turning back box, that's the first thing I did. I said, all right, let me go back. Let me get a refresher course. And we're gonna have some questions about the 3.0 versus the 2.0. And when we get around to that, I'll pop those questions up.
So Arthur asked a question earlier on about how it compares to some other games, Blind Swords in this case. We'll talk a little bit about that so we can kind of understand its playing, because it doesn't get as much love as a lot of the other games out there. So that's why one reason I wanted to bring Nick on, because I don't play Line of Battle myself. So this is really, I'm going to be asking a lot of noob questions here because I play that role of a dum-dum real well. Okay. So Nick, so like we talked about I remember you maybe brought some of these to that Donkey Con there, and you did videos of them where they were in there. So
yep.
You kind of mentioned that you've been designing games since you were a kid playing, miniatures, and I wish McMurray were here because he'd be all over that. But miniatures in the sandbox. So So obviously you wanted to do that. Why Line of Battle for that specifically? Because it's a lot of work to design, as a few of these guys on here know.
I didn't realize that.
Why Line of Battle? And kind of explain your design journey a little bit. Maybe why you chose the battle and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I think 2017, I picked up Last Chance for Victory, and I taught myself the rules, and that wasn't really something that was normal for me because I had my Uncle John. We would literally get together, and we would sit across from the table, and he'd pull out the rules, and he'd be like, here's how we play. And he literally verbatim will read the rules, and I sit there like this and say, okay, can we just play? So, I taught myself the rules, and I set it up, and I loved it. I thought the system was super clean. It kind of made sense to me, and I just started going down the rabbit hole of acquiring all the games. I got None But Heroes. I went back and acquired all the old RSS games. So at Donkey Con, I believe we played This Terrible Sound, and that is Chickamauga. Huge. There's like 8 maps. It's ridiculous how big that is.
That's right.
And it was me and Uncle John. Uncle John came with me, and I took.
There you go.
Yep, right there, that bad boy. And you can still find it great price on the secondary market, which is amazing because there's a ton of content there.
It's because isn't that system sort of the lapse between CWBS and then Line of Battle, and it just. People holler about GBACW and the details of that. GBACW can't touch that.
Yeah, if you play the RSS rules, it gets pretty intense. I've never played with the RSS. We played it with the Line of Battle 2.0 rules, ported into it, and it works just fine. But we played that, and it was great. I think we got like 25 out of 50 turns done, and there were 5 or 6 of us playing. So, we're leaving, and we had a great time or whatever, and we're driving on the way back, and it's like, man, this system needs other battles that are manageable, because that's fun, but you got to be able to finish a battle at a convention or something. Or we played None But Heroes. We played in my garage over a full weekend, and then we probably put another 30-40 hours into it before we completed the entire campaign. So it took forever. So the initial impetus was that we wanted something that was manageable, and I figured, well, I can find a battle that is easy to design, and we'll just come up with something and we'll play it on our own. So first and foremost, I was just a fan of the series, and I wanted to see other battles. And I feel like that's really kind of how it started. We realized when we started looking at the orders of battle and, the map scale and the sizes and things like that, and I was like, Perryville could be a good fit. And to be honest, it was really for no other reason than it just fit the criteria of kind of what we were looking at. But then I started...
You had to have had I mean, granted, I get it, Perryville, okay. I mean, and you said it to me when I pulled that first turning, when I put that no return or no turning whatever video out. You said that Perryville is probably not up my alley because it's not as big, but I think it's going to be perfect because it's not to take Washington. It's definitely not the Antietam game, and it's not Last Chance for Victory. So it sounds to me like you're giving us a line of battle game that's going to fit a lot of people's time period. Because
I think so, and I think I might have said that it would be a good fit for you.
Oh,
I
took the negative. Sorry.
I think is what I said, because it should be, if you play the campaign. I mean, the battle itself really only took 5 hours. So in game terms, you're looking at 20 to 25 turns elapsed for the entire battle. We only realized kind of after I started figuring out the order of battle and looking at, I started doing research. I picked this book up, which I would highly recommend.
Ken No, yep.
Yeah, that's a fantastic book, and that's really what kind of spurred me. I started making the map, I started looking at things, and then it's like, wow, this is an incredibly interesting battle. And I go on a Board Game Geek, I look it up. Well, there's nothing on it. I mean, there's literally no games at the time on the battle. So this is 8 years ago. So I'm also filling a need in the hobby at the time. So it made sense. It kind of worked out. And we worked on it. I had probably 3 or 4 months in the design process before we physically played it on the hand-drawn map. And I took from that there was something there. And I could have just been happy with it and been like, we'll pull it out again and we'll make some tweaks and we'll play it again. But I kind of had a fork in the road, and I had to decide, am I just going to leave it at that? Or is this something that I actually want to pursue? And me being me, I went down the route of, okay, I'm going to go to the battlefield. I'm going to talk to Kurt Holman, who's the previous curator of the battlefield. I want to double check the order of battle, make sure everything is as good as I can possibly get it. I erred on that side of it. I don't know that at the time I really had the intention of it ever becoming a legit published design, because I never got any feedback.
Yeah, you grinded on that game for a while, and I was there a bump in the road when you were initially trying to push this across to MMP?
I submitted it to Dean, and they were, I think, just starting work on No Turning Back. And at the time, and I don't know if this is correct, but it seems like Line of Battle was Dean's baby. I don't know that there's a lot of people that were privy to kind of what was being play tested and how the rules were being developed and things like that. So they were totally focused on No Turning Back. So I never heard any feedback from him after I submitted it until like 2 years ago. So I thought it was dead. I had taken it as far as I thought I could take it. And, I got all the enjoyment that I expected and more out of it, because that process I found was extremely enjoyable.
That's cool.
I was learning. It was teaching me the history, and that spurred probably about 8 other game designs that are in various processes. So
Cool.
there was a span of about 3 or 4 years where that's all I did.
By the way, I stand corrected. You did say Inferno in the Bluegrass might end up being a sweet spot for me. I must have completely misread that. So yeah. And I think that's why I was confused, because I think, my God, he's going to give us a full battle that's not going to take somebody 2 months to play.
Yeah, it should be a sweet spot for players that like the system to begin with, because it's going to be manageable and there's a lot of variation in what the players can do. It's wide open. We've got a couple different scenarios. The one that our playtesters loved, the battle historically started at like 2 p.m. Well, we've got a scenario where it starts at 6 a.m. Confederates are all on the field basically, and the Union kind of come in as reinforcements. It's going to look totally different than the historical battle, but the playtesters loved it. So from the standpoint of having different angles that you can approach the battle from, I think it's going to be really good. We've also got some small scenarios that'll help teach new players. But realistically, if you're playing the historical setup or an early start setup by a couple hours, you're going to be able to complete it in a weekend or a convention. So, and that was the intent.
That's
Now,
cool.
let me ask Phil a quick. Phil, you have much work on Perryville? You done much with Perryville?
I taught a class on it many, many years ago.
Okay, so I'm curious. Because it's been the only one I played was CWBS. I haven't played the Grand Havoc one yet. Was there a missed opportunity by the Rebs in that battle, or something? Something about
always a missed opportunity for somebody.
maneuvering down a highway or a flank or something that was. And I'm wondering if maybe Nick's with that earlier start time.
I don't remember completely. I just know it had Braxton Bragg involved, and that's
stop it. He's my hero.
So,
well, I mean, the question comes out, Nick, with this. You said you've modeled the battlefield. What's the scope of it? Because I know with like Grand Havoc, and I know I may be jumping into the weeds a little bit here, that actually modeled down into Perryville itself, and then a little bit to the west. Are you in that same mode with that from the Chafin River all the way over?
So Todd might be able to pull up the Vassal map here and show you guys. It's a 2-mapper.
I'll zoom in when we talk about details, but this is the whole map.
Yeah. So there's the whole map. At the northern end, that's going to be north of Walker's Bend, which is the Confederates. You've got a right wing with a division under Benjamin Cheatham, which is going to go and move and deploy into that bend. And essentially the entire Union First Corps, which you'll see up above where Todd's at. Yep, those guys. They're arriving on the field and they're going to deploy into defensive positions. So the historical battle, Cheatham crosses the ford that's right there in Walker's Bend. They attack what they think is an isolated Union unit. They don't understand or know that it's an entire corps. And it's a classic Braxton Bragg attack. It's an end echelon, north to south. Everybody steps off in 15-minute increments. What they end up running into is an entire corps. They get themselves, mired up in this just, I don't want to say nasty terrain in the extent that no turning back. The wilderness is nasty terrain, but it's deceptive. It's hills, crests, valleys, hills, crests, valleys. So when you're actually on the battlefield and you're standing on one of these crests, you see another hill, you can't see anything behind it. So it's incredibly deceptive when it comes to being able to identify the locations of enemy troops. And that's really one of the main kind of focuses of the design and the battle is there's a lot of confusion that's kind of sowed from that. South of Perryville, there's not really a lot of action historically. In the hypothetical game, we have seen some. But there is also part of the battle happens right there where your cursor's at, Todd, the morning of the 8th. And then there's also an isolated Confederate brigade that moves up there because they see a battery. They're like, oh, we're going to go take this battery. Again, they get up to the hill. an entire corps sitting right there.
There's a lot of blue there.
Yeah, and they chase them back to Perryville. So, and I'm getting off tangent off the rails, but that's part of the difficulty in designing a game on this battle is that there's variables that you can't account for, that you have to kind of artificially restrict the players. Because if you have perfect knowledge, the battle wouldn't be a good gaming situation, because the Union would so outnumber the Confederates that they would just blow them out of the water.
So I'm assuming in your creation of this, I mean, don't give us what you can't. Obviously, the game's on pre-order, but what command variants have you stuck into this one to hinder?
So there's a couple different things that we have that take place. If you're playing the scenario that I would recommend to players, which is like a hour and a half, 2 hour earlier start than historical, that's the start of what you see right here in front of you. We're going to have something called the attack commencement chart. And there's also going to be a Union alertness level. The attack commencement chart is essentially just a way of determining when the Confederates can actually begin their attacks. And there's certain modifiers that kind of go into those. It's essentially a roll. So every game's going to play a little bit different. And at certain times, you're going to get certain modifiers, but a Confederate player that's able to kick his attack off and get a concerted attack earlier before the Union can kind of get into position, that game's going to play way differently than attack that maybe starts late. Conversely, the Union command structure is just all haywire. Buell's not even on the map. The guy's got some major issues. So he has to become alert. Gilbert, who's Third Corps leader, probably one of the worst Corps commanders of the entire war, he has to become alert, and Sheridan has to become alert before that Corps can really act or do anything. There's some other little things that can happen, and brigades can kind of move off and do certain things, but for the most part, that Corps is locked in place until certain extraneous factors release them to be able to do what they need to do. So it's up to kind of First Corps, which is up there to the north. If you scroll up, Todd.
Okay. Hey, Jeff, I want to kind of maybe show some of the charts. I'm going to switch out to the way I'm showing stuff here in just a second. But after Nick talks about this.
All right.
What do you need me to do, Nick?
Yeah, so if you just go a little south.
Down a little bit. Yeah.
Scroll down. So the main crux of the battle is going to happen kind of in this area. And you'll see where those blue markers are at. Those are going to be the victory locations. So that's what you're going to be mainly fighting over.
Yeah, open up.
How the Confederates go about doing that is going to be totally up to the player. In this game, the Confederates and the Union, both players, are going to be more in the role of the divisional and the Corps leader rather than the Army leader, because the Army leaders were so detached from the battle. So we took a system that's designed for Corps and divisional size engagements, and we broke it down more to a brigade level engagement where your pieces that you're commanding and giving orders to are smaller chunks of formations. It creates a totally different game than something like Gettysburg, where you write an order to a corps and a huge body of troops moves to a certain part of the battlefield. So in line of battle, that is a tricky thing to do, I think, because it had never, or it hasn't really been done before. Most of the battles prior were really big. So this is going to have a totally different feel.
How many Zero commanders are in this game?
You got 2 for the Confederates, I think, and you got a lot for the Union, I think, in Third Corps, and there's at least 1 or 2 in First Corps.
Okay, so okay,
Jeff, you want to share my screen? You might want to show that too.
Okay, so my question is going to be, okay, so one of the things, and I found it with CWBS, not as deep with line of battle, because you can use command radius in line of battle. And of course, obviously, when you're coming from the GBACW world, command radius fits the bill for anything like this. However, I have played a lot of these CWBS. I think that is the most. To me, that's a game changer in all games like this. That order system. There's nothing that's cooler than, and I think we've talked about this with other people on the channel that, and maybe Mark can chime in on this too, is a lot of these officers, I'm not going to say all of them because we won't talk about Dan Sickles, but it was an honor thing. It was an integrity thing. I was given my order and I'm going to follow my order because that's what I was told to do. And there's nothing better than a system where you issue an order, because and it even works for solo. You react by writing an order to a formation to go here and do such and such. And halfway through that order, you've changed the order for the unit that they were going to go greet. And now they successfully have changed, but now you can't. And
Yep.
I think that's the hot spot, I think, for CWBS, for line of battle. And you've simplified the orders in line of battle. They've simplified the orders writing. But you could still make that as detailed. And I think, Mark, you've done a lot of stuff like this with command and stuff. Do you like, or what do you think of the writing the orders and leaders having to stick to them in this environment?
I mean, when you have a face-to-face situation, it's fantastic. I will say that I played, Dean and I are old friends. I played his Botanicau a lot, and what I eventually did was I created like 5 or 6 different Japanese plans. And then I would just move. Then I would play as the Marines, and as I moved, and I had like a, when you're crossing a Mechanicau, there's gonna be Japanese. So when you did certain places, that's when I would roll the dice and pick one of the Japanese planes. And I actually had ambushed myself a couple of times because I didn't know the Japanese had a lot of guys where I was crossing, because that was one of the plans. So it can work out well, but you have to do a little bit more work for the solitaire piece of it if you're playing two-handed. But I will say that the comment that you made that I certainly resonate with is I like to finish my games. I mean, I'm okay with your convention, or like if I can't finish a game in one, even if it's a long sitting, it's not going to get finished. And that just sucks. To spend that much time and not get somewhere. So I'm much more focused. And then look, I've done games that go on forever, so I totally get it.
Pacific War.
Well, see, that's the funny thing. I just played, by the way, Carl C. I have a couple of German friends I play with every Friday. We played Carl C. in 90 minutes. So,
right.
If you want to play the entire Pacific War at the operational level with individual capital ships, you might want to either be in prison or have nothing else to do.
Right.
But battle scenarios and even some of the shorter campaigns can be done in one afternoon, and that's fine to me.
Yeah, perfect.
But if you're going to do a very tactical game, like a smaller battle, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think what we took away from that convention was it was so much work, and we put so much time and effort into it that it kind of hurt to see it not come to fruition, and we weren't going to transfer it to Vassal, so it's kind of a buzzkill after you have such a great time playing this and you've still got things that you want to see play out. We just felt like, man, there's got to be other battles that we can try to fit something into line of battle, and then find something that's replayable. You play it quick, switch sides, or try something different. You get a little bit. You're really looking at that battle instead of just trying to get as far as you can.
And like I said, having watched WBC tournaments of all the games you guys have mentioned, those guys will pound away for 4 or 5 hours, and then the judge has to figure out who won because they couldn't. Like I said, doing a shameless plug. That's why I'm doing the whole Rebel Fury system. I can actually sit down and play a full campaign in with Alan. If I didn't have to go out of town, Alan was coming over. We're going to finish the Antietam campaign, the whole thing, September 13th through the end of the battle, and within one afternoon easy.
Yeah. Hey, so real quick, Nick, for us people that are still pretty new to ACW and stuff, let's well, first of all, I like this. I had that chart pulled up. I do like seeing that Union command tree because I don't know all that stuff like off the top of my head, like I do World War II stuff. So it's kind of nice to see the name and the name of their, who they belong to and kind of where, what falls in the same with the Confederates. It's really nice. And this is really nice, actually. I thought about making some of these for some games that don't necessarily have that sort of thing. Yeah, here's that attack commencement chart you were talking about there.
Yep. So that's going to be the die rolls that the Confederate player is making to see when their leader is allowed to essentially kick off the attack. There's a couple different little modifiers that come into there, but with that, every game is going to be different, and it takes a little bit of control out of, just being able to say, "Oh, the game starts, I start the attack." Well, not this time. So same thing with the Union alertness. If you go to that chart, similarly,
alertness. Okay.
Yep, that's going to be your 3 leaders that are going to need to roll to become alert. You've got different modifiers there as well. So, if the Union player is getting schwacked, they're going to be able to probably become alert a little bit more quickly. If the Confederates are starting to take certain locations, the battle's crazy. I mean, that 3rd Corps that's sitting to the south of 1st Corps, they were firing artillery shells in the backs of the advancing Confederate infantry, and they were told to stop.
Oh.
They were told they were wasting ammunition. So, again, one of the most inept Corps leaders probably of the entire war in Charles Gilbert.
You should tell everybody about where he came from.
So he was like an old Army captain or something. He was not a high-ranking officer. And what happened is you had Bull Nelson was shot at the Battle of Richmond, Kentucky, who was the leader of that army fighting against Kirby Smith, another battle that happened in Kentucky. And he goes back, I believe they're either in Cincinnati or Louisville, and he is confronted by Jefferson Davis, another general from Indiana, and apparently they're both hotheads. Davis shoots him in the chest in a hotel lobby or something, and he dies. So then, there's this power vacuum of, okay, well, who wants the command? And you've got the district commander who's looking around, and Thomas is the obvious choice. Well, what's Thomas do? Oh, we're getting ready to start a campaign. I can't take command, which I don't understand that whole thing. They're always like, oh, I can't do it, but so people turn down the command, and then I don't know if I forget. I don't know if he got recommended by somebody, or I think Horatio Wright is the district commander. I don't know if he was friends with them, but he gets a huge promotion and all of a sudden becomes a corps commander. And the guy's never commanded a body of troops probably larger than a regiment. So
let's be clear, and Phil, this is one you could probably weigh in on. So when McDowell takes over the Army of the Potomac, he was a major before that. And McClellan was a captain. So these guys, the only, other than guys like Robert E. Lee, he might have made full colonel just before the war, but, Lieutenant Colonel, A.S. Johnston was a full colonel. But that was, and there was a couple of Union generals, but they were old. They didn't last for like Patterson. But so when you look at the early part of the war, you've got guys who have maybe commanded a company have 20,000 guys. I have no clue how to do that. You ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean that's exactly I think his situation.
Phil, I was just going to ask you. You've looked at this kind of thing, also, I'm sure.
Yeah, he was way out of his league when he got put in there, and that shows in how he acted in the battle. So, other general, and you're talking about Horatio Wright is the guy that promotes him. Here's a guy that later becomes commander of the 6th Corps in the Army of the Potomac, and he's a pretty good general himself. But,
which Grant refers to as his Pearl in the Isn't Sixth Corps the one he sends back when Early's threatening?
Yeah, he sends back, and Wright does pretty good at Cedar Creek, but he doesn't get any of the accolades. He's rallying the guys, and then Sheridan shows up.
Hey, Todd, go back to that the USA commencement. Oh, why am I fuzzy?
You're talking about
the CSA attack commencement.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry, I can't zoom in more than that. So sorry, Greg.
Okay, so I hold on. You mean to tell me that if I'm trying to execute an attack and Bragg is in the hex with the people I'm trying to execute, I got to roll another extra dice or get another higher up the chart?
That's a benefit. If Bragg's in there, he's not happy. So he's trying to spur the attack along.
Oh, so he is trying. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I know who.
He's got a modifier. It says Bragg located in same hex +1.
Yeah, I thought maybe I had to roll a higher number or something to make it harder. What? Okay,
Jeff, you do.
Well, we're doing history, so I look. Everybody talks about Bragg at certain places, but what was the issue? We saw the paralysis statement that David Murray made there, but what was? We know that everybody hated Bragg, it seems, from nonstop. All right, but where was Bragg's failure here? What was you just did this battle, Phil? You're a tour guide of this stuff. You're a historian of this stuff. What was Bragg's faults here, Nick?
Oh, you want me to take? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you
One
said
at a
Phil.
time.
So I think it's a combination. I think it's Bragg being himself to a certain extent, vacillating as he typically does, making a decision and then rescinding it and not being able to commit to something, even if it's a good choice. But he also was failed by his subordinates to a certain extent, and that comes partly from the operational side of it. Bragg the army was spread out. He's fighting this battle without the division of Jones Withers. So he's positioned north of Harrodsburg. Buell comes out of Louisville with the 3 Corps heading towards Bragg, but he also sends a diversionary division under Joshua Sill towards Frankfurt. And Bragg believes that is the main body of the Federal Army. So his ultimate operational goal is to meet up with Kirby Smith, join the armies, destroy him. Unfortunately, his subordinates, Hardee probably, and I would say in particular, Hardee probably should have done better, but obviously Polk. Those 2 guys did not do him any favors by giving intelligent reports on enemy movements or strengths or anything like that prior to the battle. So he's got limited information to make choices on. He orders the attack here in the morning. He's in Harrodsburg, which is miles away. He's awaiting the sound of gunfire. He orders Polk to advance. Polk's the commander on the field. Guess what Polk doesn't do? He doesn't attack. So Bragg rides out to Perryville, and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing? And he realizes their lines are all jacked up. So he kind of just starts throwing orders to Polk. They have no clue what they're up against. They don't understand that there are 3 Federal Corps within miles of each other. Buell's plan is operationally sound. They're advancing on essentially parallel roads, so they should be mutually supportive. Acoustic shadow is something that comes into play at the Battle of Perryville. That's probably one of the main features. So with the hills and the weather and the wind and the way things were set up that day, Buell's headquarters is maybe 2 or 3 miles off map. He can't hear rifle fire. He hears cannon fire, but he can hear no rifle fire. So throughout the day, as McCook's 1st Corps is getting smashed, he doesn't react. He doesn't order any sort of action from 3rd Corps. Crittenden's 2nd Corps is off map to the south. They do nothing. So it's just kind of an amalgamation of weird and odd events, atmospheric conditions. I think once the battle gets going, I don't think Bragg is terrible from a tactical standpoint. He's a little bit more hands-off. But I think it's standard Bragg. It's vacillating. There's very little accountability when things go bad. There's always excuses.
I would
Go ahead.
No, I think that. So, you guys have all seen a World War II movie like with Commandos, right? And you were in the military, and so they all go, okay, let's synchronize our watches. 5. You've seen a million movies that do that.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think that ever happened that I've ever. Phil, maybe you've seen them. I don't think they ever did that in the Civil War.
Oh, because everybody had different time.
Yeah.
They had different maps. They have different time, and like even if I send a courier, like one of the things that Grant did well, Grant used to park his ass in a bench somewhere where everybody knew where he was, so a courier could actually find Grant because he wasn't moving around. But if you got a guy moving around and you got a courier looking and they go, hey, have you seen so and so? Goes, yeah, he was somewhere down that way. You could spend that, even if the distances are short, the time to get the message to somebody could be half a day just looking for the guy because it's there's no radios.
Yeah.
So I think that in general, the mayhem of trying to launch a coordinated attack is so far against you to begin with. It's rare when it does happen that we go, well, why didn't that happen? It never happened, except for once in a while we think, oh, they could have happened again. It's just not the norm, and that's I think the plot.
Yeah.
Phil, correct me if I'm wrong. Bragg was West Pointer, right?
Yeah, he went to West Point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to comment on this because I've said this a few times, and his thing right there about Bragg was a good judge of operational possibilities. Wasn't Bragg very? I don't know, if there was a rating or anything like that, but wasn't he very efficient in battlefield operations coming out of West Point?
He scored high at West Point for operational stuff, and that's why at the end of the war he wound up, being an aide for
Davis.
Davis.
Yeah.
Towards the end when they didn't have an army for him.
Bragg were friends. Yeah, I think they went to school together. I mean, they were in the same class.
Yeah.
Well, and to his credit, at Perryville, he realizes when the battle's over and the dust is settled, he's in a terrible spot, and he kind of understands what's in front of him, and he gets out to Tennessee. So, from the standpoint of understanding what he needs to do within that context, he definitely makes the right choice at that point.
And one other thing I would offer is, and I've been, again, everybody's got, there's no correct answer to anything I say or wrong, but a lot of commanders, it's the same thing in business leaders. Some guys are macro commanders and some guys are micro commanders. And like Lee was a macro commander, and he was very effective when he had Jackson and Longstreet to say, here's what I want you guys to do, go do it. Those two guys knew what to do. Bragg was at the same school, but he didn't have the level of subordinates. I mean, he said, here's what I want you guys to do, and then they don't do it. And that is a macro commander in the Civil War with an unused crowd can go wrong real fast. And that was the case of the Army of the Potomac also. They had, they got good orders, but you don't follow them. I mean, you don't turn back. Grant orders through Meade. Meade says he wants to attack, and they want to attack like at 10:30 in the morning in Saunders Field. Grant finally shows up around 1, and it says, well, where's the attack? They go, Griffin and Griffin do it. There were two generals of this force, and we're not going to attack because we don't know what's on our flanks. And Grant gives an order saying, attack, I don't care about your flanks. Otherwise, there would have been no attack. So there's a lot of opinion and friction going on in these things that it's just not easy to capture. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, from the studies I've seen of Bragg, he could chart out the big picture and plan it out, to what Nick was talking about being over in Harrodsburg, which, by the way, still looks probably the same way when he was there, if you've ever been there.
Go stay at Beaumont Inn.
I've seen that. I haven't been there, but I've been through there. But he planned it out. But then you have people like Hull, who's going to be like, I'm just going to ignore him and do my own thing. He never established that relationship between his immediate subordinate commanders.
He never did, ever did he? In the entire. No.
Yeah. That's the problem. And that's the problem. To Mark's point.
I look at that list right there, and I mean, okay, and maybe I'm wrong about some of these, but I'm seeing you got Cheatham, you got Hardy, you got Wheeler, you got Cleburne. These guys, granted, this is early, but these guys were pretty good leaders of men. I don't know about the rest of them, but I mean, I don't know. It just strikes me kind of odd that what was it? There was what was it about Bragg that these people just did not like this guy?
Jeff, you said it. Their leaders were men. They could lead subordinates, but they couldn't take the command, take the orders from a higher level. And if Bragg didn't establish that one way or another, they're just going to say, "Oh, screw Bragg. I'm just going to do my own thing."
Hey, Phil. I know, Phil, you got something to say?
Oh, I was just going to say he never took responsibility for anything either. He would blame his subordinates.
Oh, geez.
And especially, it started at Perryville, and by the time we get to Chickamauga, I mean, there's basically a revolt in the Army of Tennessee.
Okay,
because people still have grudges going all the way back to Perryville.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because that word would get around, right? Like, it happens at any company. Like, don't work for that guy.
And it took James Longstreet 10 minutes to get involved into it, too. So, yeah, he became one of those Bragg haters as well.
A couple quick questions. Phil, so, Phil, are there tour guide Phils down in the Perryville battlefield, or is that a thing?
Not that I know of.
Oh, really? Okay.
I know that they are starting to get certified guides.
Oh.
At other battlefields.
Todd, you got one there. You got one sitting right there beside you on screen.
Well, it certainly sounds like it. I mean, it seems like he could take that test. A quick question, Phil, and then I have a question about something that was asked and what was mentioned. So, Phil, what was the nature of your class? Like, was it just a simple, like, here's the history of it, or was there something else you were communicating through that class?
Oh, I was an adjunct professor at Carroll County Community College down here in Maryland for a little while.
Okay.
And I was covering the Western Theater, and I was doing Middle Tennessee, Perryville, that campaign. It was just a basic overview of the campaign. So that's all it was.
All right, so you said something, Nick, and it's funny because Bill Spear typed, and he had a typo, and it said autistic shadows wreaked havoc in the ACW. Like, well, maybe, but we didn't really know about autism, man. So, but I think the word you used was acoustic shadow, and I'm sure that's what he meant. So, can you explain what that is to me?
Maybe they didn't know the left flank from the right flank. That could have been a problem.
That could very well could be. I'm sure there was some autism going on there. So, anyway, Nick, what's that shadow thing you're talking about? Acoustic shadow.
Yeah, so I'm not a meteorologist, but it's like some sort of atmospheric phenomenon when if you get the wind going in a certain direction and you've got, hills and things in that area of the country, obviously the Bluegrass region, it deflects sound and it moves it off in a different direction. So you could be a couple miles away and you're not hearing the rifle fire.
Okay.
So just since I used to do this for a living, there was this guy, a professor in New Mexico, had this is like engineering level models, and we used to use them in the Pentagon. But basically, what is sound? Sound is air molecules bouncing into other molecules, right?
Yep.
So depending on temperature, wind, humidity, terrain, those molecules could hit a place and they don't go forward, they go to the side. And it requires literally like a Cray computer to figure that out beforehand. I mean, this is some serious calculations, but ultimately it's just the molecules don't bounce in the way. If it's a flat ground, the sound perpetrates in a big wave, right?
Yep.
Now you put hills and water and humidity, and it just changes the characteristics of the air.
Interesting.
Molecules don't bounce the same way, and they bounce in different directions. And you could be standing like on the backside of the hill. It's going around. Like you've been to Colorado Springs, right?
I was stationed out there.
You got Pikes Peak.
Yep.
And the reason that Colorado Springs is such a nice place is that when the snow comes and the wind and the rain comes from the west, Pikes Peak pushes it around. And that area stays in a snow. It doesn't get a lot of snow. It's like maybe a flurry. You go like 6 miles east of Colorado Springs and it's a big snowstorm. Same kind of effect.
I got you.
It's all about airflow.
Yep. And so what was the impact of that in this particular battle, Nick? Like, why did you bring that up? Like, what was going on?
So Bragg is not that far away from the battle. He's a couple miles, and he essentially does nothing for 3 or 4 hours, which forces the Federal Army to fight with 2 arms tied behind its back. They've got 3 corps within striking range of this Confederate Army, and only 1 corps gets engaged, essentially. Gilbert's 3rd Corps does eventually, he sends 2 brigades late in the day as kind of the sun's setting and darkness is falling. But for the most part, its major impact is it creates a situation where the battles, you could kind of consider it a tactical Confederate success, but it's only because of these conditions that kind of forced Buell into not doing anything, essentially.
Okay.
And you have to replicate that in a design somehow. You can't just let 3rd Corps run rampant. So
yeah, it's an interesting challenge. Okay. All right. So I want to understand, because I don't play this, and my exposure to ACW games is pretty limited. So I kind of want to understand where this fits into the scheme of, because we have a lot of systems out there now, a lot of really good systems. I'm curious where this kind of fits in the whole scheme of things. We got the U.S. Civil War, which is I get that, and then we got all the others. So, like, what from your view, Nick, and then obviously the guys who also played this, speak up too. But from Nick's perspective, like, where's this fit into the big scheme of things?
I would say line of battle. The reason I was drawn to it is because it's a perfect middle ground. I think it has a lot of key mechanics that are going for it that I found really interesting. The first one being that order system, that it's so novel, and I love that. I eat that up. Within other game series kind of that are out there, I would say comparatively GBACW is more in the weeds. It's a little bit chewier. It's a more difficult system to learn, in my opinion, just because you have things like extended lines. You're looking at fatigue, ammo for individual regiments. These are things that line of battle just kind of looks at and says, we're not going to do that. It focuses. Line of battle is meant to be streamlined. If you're going to play the Battle of Gettysburg, you want to play a system that allows you to do things quickly without being in the weeds. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. You've played a lot more GBACW than I have. My experience is relatively limited, but just to look at something for comparison, I looked at Shock Assault in GBACW. It's 7 pages. I mean, that's 7 pages of Shock Assault.
Yep.
In line of battle, when you look at charges, which is comparatively, it is a die roll. Essentially, it's simple. It's 3 pages because you have to cover everything. But there's a difference there between the level of detail, I think, in looking at things a little bit deeper for GBACW. Alternatively, I would say Blind Swords is probably the other side of the spectrum there. I think Blind Swords is going to be a little bit more accessible. It's going to be a little bit easier, but you're not worrying about things like facing. You don't have leaders on map. And I think part of the joy is at a tactical level is I like the facing. I got to have facing. I like Blind Swords too, but it feels very different. I would say my preference would be to have a little bit more of the chrome rather than less. But line of battle just has found kind of a sweet spot for me. And Brothers at War, I think Mark mentioned in a previous show that you guys did that he was playing some of that. That seems like that's probably on the easier side of the spectrum too. But Hexy, you've played plenty of GBACW and you have experience with line of battle.
Yeah, now that you've gone into it. So I think one of my biggest initial hatreds of line of battle was the opening volley. Okay. And I've been out of the line of battle until the no turning back came. And then it's funny because I started looking at that again. And then I went back the other night and I was looking at your LOS and visibility stuff. And I sat there and I thought about listening to what you were talking about, and how, particular spot in the hex is where the unit will be. And I thought to myself, because I always thought opening volley was just too simple and just didn't have it hadn't, like, to me, it had like no mechanics. But then I realized that opening volley is, you're actually giving the unit, because you're not talking about where that enemy necessarily is terrain wise in the hex that the opening volley is going into. I mean, like the highest part or whatever like that. That's in effect telling that unit that is going to fire that opening volley, they're going to take that opening volley when they want to take that opening volley, which makes way more sense to me. So now, and I have found that I'm going to tell you, simple GBABW is what set me down this road now, where line of battle, the taste in my mouth is better with line of battle now, because you have taken, I guess to put it simpler, I'm going to play Last Chance for Victory all 3 days faster than I'm going to play GBACW. But that's the way those games are built. We get the arguments all the time with people about the rules are too much for GBACW. They are too much, but that's what they're designed to be.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
want to get every granular thing you can out of it. Okay, if you don't want that, then let's go to line of battle where we can play that big regimental game, and you can probably get through it better. And now we've thrown simple GBACW into the rules, which Mr. Who swore to Dick Whitaker, never create those rules, don't ruin that system, is playing nothing but that right now. So,
and I think it's kind of just different strokes for different folks, I think, to a certain extent.
Yeah. Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was going to say one other thing. We've been talking about speed in terms of that, which is great. We want to get a game done. Also, one thing with GBACW provides a great detailed narrative. Nick, can you comment kind of how line of battle creates that narrative as well? Because I know a lot of people today, it's narrative. I myself, narrative is one thing that's becoming important.
Yeah, I think that order system is really the basis for that. And there's mechanisms that are built into line of battle that are outside of the player's control. And I talked about this on the MMP podcast a little bit. Players want to have control. GBACW is chip pull, I think, at this point, right, guys?
Yeah.
So that takes control away from you. You don't know when you're going to get what or who's doing what. The way line of battle does that is with the order system, but you have mechanisms. The main one being fluke stoppage. So you see a gap in the enemy line, you want to take advantage of this. You order this division to attack it. Well, you got to make a roll every turn to see if that attack continues. And depending on if your leader's any good, depending if your formation is beat up, do you have a reserve that you can pull if you need to? Things will happen within the game that are well outside of your control. And some people hate that. I love that, because that's really where that narrative kind of begins. The tactical part of line of battle is relatively simple compared to something like GBACW. It truly is. The activity phase is, there are plenty of decision points to make tactically, but it's relatively simple. But that order system, that's really what kind of drives that narrative home, because you'll be right on the cusp of taking an objective, and then all of a sudden, shit, I rolled fluke stoppage, so my attack stops, even though you're right there. And, you've just got to accept that as a player. It's not, if you're a competitive person, that's going to, I'm competitive. I want to win, right? But it's part of the fun. I play games because it's fun and I enjoy it. And you just sit back and laugh, and it's like, man, or what am I going to do about that now? And you've got mechanisms. There's a mechanism called recovery. So if they roll well, they might come right back, and they might jump right back into that attack. There's initiative. So can your defensive leaders take initiative to react to something potentially? And I think the narrative is going to be driven by the orders, I think, it is, to answer that question.
Speaking of bad luck, on Friday in the Coral Sea, I didn't score one hit the whole battle. Nothing. And it's like it's life. In fact, the only successes I had was the Americans launched a dust strike, and most of the planes crashed in the water. That's the only thing I did for the guy. Was I didn't do anything to him. So what am I going to say?
Uncle John did make an interesting comment there. He said, "Don't get your leaders killed because a zero replacement sucks." That, yes, narrative with what the leaders are doing, or certain regiments will just go crazy on a charge or something like that. I mean, we've had countless encounters where, Hood's a maniac at Antietam, and the guy's charging all over the place, taking people out, and then all of a sudden he comes up to like a 1 SP, which is like 50 men, wrecked unit, and he does something stupid and gets shot and killed. And it's like, I'm off, so.
Well, I like that you didn't take the zero leaders. I like the fact that the system doesn't take them out of the game, just makes their abilities potentially to be a little more cautious or hesitant.
Well, wait, but just to add on to that. But to add on to that, though, sometimes a zero leader, the guy could be good even, but he may not know that the guy he's replacing has even been taken out of the battle. He wasn't over there. Like when Hood gets hit at Gettysburg, it takes a while for them to get the guy who's next in command to know that you're in command. So he doesn't know he's supposed to be doing anything.
That's right. Law did not.
Law didn't know he was in charge until like about almost an hour took place. Said, "Hey, by the way, you're in charge." What?
Yeah.
Well, so fluke stoppage, the 2.0. I got
to pull up, Jeff, if you want to show.
Okay, I haven't read yet. I haven't gone into the I'm playing some scenarios of the no turning back, but I haven't gone into the fluke stoppage in the 3.0. I want to say that one of the things I had in unless I interpreted it wrong, let's take Hood's attack, McClaw's on the second, and why do I want? For some reason, I want to say that if the attacks went into fluke stoppage, it stopped the entire division or potentially the entire corps.
So it's going to be dependent on what your command is. In that instance, the command would be, let's see here. You'd be looking at Longstreet's corps with 2 divisions, correct?
Yep.
So in line of battle, you would be moving the corps command, which would be the headquarters for Longstreet, and the 2 divisions would operate independently underneath those corps orders. So you would roll for each division leader.
So if one failed, it doesn't necessarily mean like if Hood failed or if he suffered fluke stoppage, McClaw's was still able to do his thing if he doesn't.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I think I was looking because I kept thinking that if it failed, that the whole corps is attacked. And again, lines of communication, being able to see the leaders on the battlefield. And I always thought to myself, well, okay, if Hood fails, if he suffers fluke stoppage, I mean, you've got Robertson, Benning, Anderson, and Law. Why, without being able, there's no way that those leaders could all see Hood at the same time because he was moving around, I'm sure, or Law when he took over. Is there nothing built in where potentially, like, maybe at a brigade level that fluke stoppage happens?
Well, have you ever heard of a game on pre-order called Inferno in the Bluegrass?
What?
Oh, looky there. What a lead in.
So what we do in Inferno in the Bluegrass is...
I like the way you did that. That was nice.
we chop that up. Essentially, what you're going to be doing in Inferno in the Bluegrass is you're going to be ordering these brigades that are their own commands. So your brigades are going to be fluking at the brigade level, not at the divisional level.
I like that. I like that.
So that's going to create a really chaotic situation because you're also going to be giving orders to these individual brigades. So you might not be able to get your orders out to the brigades, but if you can get a concerted attack, things are going to look great until you start losing brigade leaders or they start fluking. And something we didn't mention with the 0 leaders in line of battle, having a 0 leader is terrible because those guys have to roll every turn to see if they can even move.
Right.
If they roll a 1, they can't move. If they roll a 2 to a 3, they have half movement. If they roll 4, 5, or 6, they have full. So that can just kill an attack like that.
Well, so are you still going to be able to issue a divisional order? And are you telling me Bragg to Hardy and so forth down the line? Hardy, you're going to push this hill. All right. Whatever your general attack plan is this hill. You arrange it how you want, or he tells him how he's going to do it with his brigades. Are you telling me now that just outside of the command radius thing or whatever, that now you're going to have to write individual orders per brigade, or can it still? I'm trying to think. Like I say, it's been a while with the old line of battle.
What do you want? It's dependent on what you want to do as the player. If, let's say, you're Bragg, you've got a right wing that's under Polk that has 1 division under Cheatham. You have a left wing that's under Hardy that has a division under Buckner and a division under Patton Anderson. If you're playing by the rules as written for line of battle, you have 2 commands. You have a right wing and you have a left wing. You're going to write an order to the right wing that's accepted. It has to be disseminated to the division. In the case of the left wing, you would write it to Hardy. He would accept it. And then Buckner and Patton Anderson would have to accept it. They function as those formations and roll for fluke stoppage at that level. In Inferno and the Bluegrass, we have something new called independent commands. This allows the army leader, but also the corps and the divisional leaders, all to issue orders via initiative to individual brigades. So if they're stacked, these orders are individually accepted. This battle was notorious for higher ranking officers riding the horse and seeing somebody and saying, nope, you're not doing that anymore. You're going here.
Oh, awesome.
So they just grab a hold of a brigade and they say, nope, you're doing this now.
Hold on, real quick, Nick, how is that reflected in this then?
Exactly how I'm talking about the leaders. They're going to be moving around the map, going to these brigades, trying to get them to operate as they want to see them. So instead of having 2 commands, a right wing and a left wing, the Confederate player has up to 13 commands if they so desire to break the army up into these individual brigade assets rather than divisions.
Is it going to be under certain circumstances where a brigade can suffer fluke stoppage, or at any point a brigade can suffer it?
If they're given an independent command order, they will roll for fluke stoppage on their own. Yep.
Okay. And how are players going to track this? Just on their notepads, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's typically what I do. My orders are easy. I make a 1-line order, and it's arrived at this point. Here's the order. Here's the objective. Take this axis. It's not. People think, oh, it's bookkeeping. It's not hard. Quit being lazy. Just make 1 line on your piece of notebook paper, you lazy bastards. It's not hard.
I wish I could identify. I got my notebooks here where I wrote my orders for playing CWBS and stuff. And I'm telling you, it's kind of cool to look back. Oh, sorry, Alan. It's kind of cool to look back and see. Damn, I told him to do that shit at Chickamauga, and and then follow the chain. And it's pretty cool because when you're writing those orders, when you give a formation a new order, of course, following the rules on when it gets accepted or whether it does not, what do they and I love it. He could just throw the damn thing in the trash or threw it on the ground and stomped on it for all But I like it's how you can, when you're tracking that stuff, I found it was just so simple that his order changed that he got up here at 9 in the morning. I just draw a line through it. Now I got his new orders taken over down there, and you got to, and it's, I mean, you can really, really, really get creative.
What's that, Phil?
This stuff.
My sticky pads. I would write them on my sticky pads and stick them on the map, and then write another one on top of it. That's how I would do it.
Another thing that is super easy, if you got those little KTX markers or any sort of like beads or whatever, just say this is this guy's objective, stick it there, and boom, you know what the orders are. If you're playing solo, I mean.
So and how often are you given these orders? Like, so it's the turns are 20 minutes, is that right? Give or take.
15-minute turns.
Okay. And
so ultimately, the players are probably going to be trying to give their orders at the outset of the battle. You're going to try to get your formations moving. And then as things develop and formations start to fluke, then you're going to be looking at, okay, where are my leaders? What do I need them to do now? The situation's changed. How do we adapt? It's going to be fluid. But what I like about Perryville specifically is the time frame is so condensed. You don't have time to sit around and do nothing. You can't think. You just have to. You got to make choices and do them quickly. The historical battle, like I said, is only like 24 turns. So you got to move and you got to go.
What's that, Alan?
5 hours is a short period of time. In any
really. Yeah, you're not right.
That's basically one turn in Rebel Fury.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Phil, have you obviously played lots of GBACW. Have you played Line of Battle? I don't remember.
I have played, but it's been years.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're welcome,
I
Michael.
did. I think, Nick, you and I met at Winter Offensive a couple years ago. Somebody had the game there because I know Chris and I were talking about it.
I played Line of Battle.
Chris would have probably been there. So Chris Anthony, who's the developer of Line of Battle at this point, he's kind of taken the reins and he's off to the races. But he's done a fantastic job, and he's the one that kind of drug me back into it. I was out. I got kids and I'm busy and I don't really have time to do stuff a lot anymore. And he was like, you're back. So
didn't you had time to design a cat cover for your table? I remember.
Oh yeah. I like propped up plexiglass over the table. Oh, that was great. That was the prototype.
I have a different solution. No cats, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't even have cats.
Well,
I didn't even want. It was dust. I didn't want dust.
How old are your kids?
Sorry, what was that?
How old are your children?
5 and 3.
Okay, so you're going to need more than a plexiglass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just played one scenario of the Wilderness, No Turning Back. I keep trying to, I know the battle. I just couldn't. The titles are just too many titles. I can't remember them. I have to say I liked. 3.0 and 2.0 were pretty similar, quite frankly. I doubt if there's a page of difference between the two systems, the two versions. So that's good because I didn't really. I kind of zoomed through it and I was able to set it up and just, and I agree with your point that it's, it's reasonably streamlined. It's typical Dean, what I expected. But we had a question, and so all tactical games have the same. It doesn't matter if it's ASL, Line of Battle, GBACW, you name any tactical game, opportunity fire or reaction fire, or whatever the hell you want to call it, is always an issue. And, and Hexy and I within the last 2 weeks, right? Hexy or last week, I don't remember. We were talking about. Can you talk a little bit about the thinking around, the counter fire, the volley fire, or whatever the hell it's called, and in fact,
volley.
You can shoot multiple times. How did that work for you?
Well, I didn't design the system.
I got that part, but you did do a game in it, so you must have an opinion.
But I would say, I think it's a simplification, obviously, for ease of play, and I think I remember what you guys were talking about. Was this where you said that one unit could opening volley as many times as they wanted to?
Well, there's a play note that says you can.
Yeah. And I think if you're allowing a defensive unit to open volley that many times, you're not playing it tactically well as the attacker. I think if you have a unit that's that isolated that they're the only ones that are able to make an opening volley and you're stopping and firing in front of them and giving them that opportunity, you're doing a disservice to your attack. You should be attempting to close and lock that unit because obviously then you should have advantage of numbers, I would think, in that situation. So you should be looking to try to flank that unit, or they're going to get a fire in their next turn you're just going to unload on them the following player turn. I think it works. I like it. It's quick.
Again, I think I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying we had a discussion. I just want to hear your thoughts on it. That's all.
Yeah, I think it for what it is, I like it. It's quick, it's easy. I remember playing CWBS and it bogs down after a certain amount of time because you have that, I want to say it's, you advance, the defender fires, then you take the attacker's morale checks, then the attacker gets to fire, then you do the defender's morale checks, and it just becomes tedious after a certain point. It's fun when you're playing it the first couple turns, and then it just kind of bogs down, and it just becomes kind of a pushing match.
I think our argument with this is okay, 15-minute turns. These formations are all moving at the same time, more or less. I mean, it's all happening. And, let's say you got a brigade of 4 regiments that's advancing on maybe 2 regiments, and they're moving in a line forward. My argument is, how can that unit open volley this one and also open volley this one or also open volley that one? That's when they're all you're right, though. It's not a killer thing in the game, but I thought to myself, okay, so how could that be detailed out just a tiny bit without too much headache? Maybe it's a reduction in the firepower on the.
My argument would be then you're adding unnecessary crime. What's it accomplishing at that scale? Okay. You're designing a system that's supposed to be streamlined and you want to play. There's going to be give and take. And Mark probably knows this better than anybody. If you make a design choice, you're maybe going to be giving something up somewhere else. So okay. I think that's maybe, that would be my probable interpretation of it, I guess.
No, just because Hex is beating on you, I can't have that. You're a nice young man like that. No, I think the answer is there's a spectrum of abstraction. There is.
Yeah.
Like when I was a young designer at SPI, blue and gray was like what everybody was playing, and that's about anybody on this thing right now could design a Gettysburg game around blue and gray in about 12 minutes. The order of battle, same CRT, odds ratios, roll some dice, you're done. I mean, that's the game. That doesn't necessarily teach you or give you an experience or a narrative like you're talking about. So the question is, how much narrative is enough for you is the question, not whether it's right or wrong. See, I look at it from that perspective. And if you're not having, and for me, look, I used to be a big fan of the Bataille system, but it got to the point where if I was going to launch a cavalry charge, I broke into a cold sweat because I was going to be there for an hour with one piece forward. And I just said, I'm not enjoying that.
Right.
Now, some people go, oh, I love that. Well, it's all good. It's
yep.
Take the village. There's no right answer here. It's just what is the level of abstraction, engagement that you want, and you all have different views of that.
Yeah. And I think we're learning that with especially with the simple GBACW, because I know Al and I answer questions constantly about why is that rule like that? I mean, and I get it. And like I say, I wasn't a big fan of the LOB, but now, like I say, with revisiting, I'm starting to, I guess now after being around these guys, these freaking gaming historic Muppets that I hang out with all the time, I'm learning so much more about, like March, the abstraction. Let's simplify and still have a playable game. And now I'm really going to put those gears to the spin with the line of battle system now that I comprehend what this represents and why it's like that. So
this is a shout out to Black Swan. The way they handle it is, so in the Civil War, they were in a line. If you were a brigade, they lined up next to each other. And the way that handles it, and I think line of battle does the same thing, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. When the first guy, a guy can reaction fire if he's not engaged, which is the Black Swan thing of being next to a guy, right? So the first guy comes in, and I can shoot at him because I'm not in I don't have anybody next to me. Now the second guy comes in. Now if I've got nobody on next to me to shoot at him, I can't shoot at him. And so the point is, at some point, if they found a flank, there would be a guy getting in, and that's really what it's trying to do. But if you're not in the line to begin with, as you were saying, you're playing badly, and playing badly should be punished. I mean, I just want to be clear.
Well, I can tell you that the way McMurray and I played Black Swan Gettysburg is we did. I mean, first time we'd ever played it. Coordinating, we were not good at coordinating, so we were sending guys kind of in piecemeal, and the Confederates got destroyed by.
And but remember, in that system, if you're not next to somebody from your unit, your morale's down one tick. Or
100%.
Yeah, so so again, they're not telling you what you have to do, but when you don't do it, you get punished.
I love that.
Which is a beautiful thing to me personally.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't make a rule about it. It's just how the game plays. It's good design.
Okay. Sorry,
is that a fearful slaughter?
Fearful sacrifice.
Yeah,
fearful sacrifice.
Okay. Or okay.
Yeah, that's a really fun game. I mean,
just got to jump into
It's scaled. That's like at least. I mean, he's talking about pieces that are at least a brigade plus. Almost he calls them Debbie brigades.
Yeah,
we're dealing with individual regiments. At least when I played the Saunders Field scenario, I had regiments. Is that right?
Yeah.
What are you gonna say, Alan?
No, sorry. I'm just going to jump in here. Our resident expert on grandkids talking about what to do with kids. So just a little advice from Charles on that.
Cheap minis. Minis you don't care about. I would
when I designed Pacific War, I had a 2-year-old sitting on my lap, and that who's now 42, by the way. That beautiful child never touched Pacific War because I gave her Kriegspiel, and she loved punching out counters. So I just gave her a bunch of games, and she punched out the counters.
It's like Jeff.
I said, "This is Daddy's game. This is your game." She was very happy with all that. It worked perfectly.
Why are you sending them to me then when you got a 42-year-old that can do it?
Hey.
Oh no, she's got children.
I was a 6-year-old,
a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old. She's not doing nothing but taking care of it.
Hey, Mark, next time you send Jeff a game, please say these are Daddy's games. I want him to.
Hey, I just sent him a SPQR.
Yeah, but I want that to happen. Anyway,
for the record, I didn't think he had to start asking for books, and he's going like, so if that poor bastard with all those games and all those paints starts buying books, then he'll be sleeping in his truck.
I know Molly, by the way.
Oh, you do? So I sent him
Yeah.
all the information for the library, the name of the librarian, what books are in the library from the takeout. Did I not do that for you?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I have to forward you all this email he sent me. He got into my library and told me where to go and find these books.
Oh my gosh, that's
Right.
hilarious.
And I gave him Molly's phone number and an email address, who's the librarian.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Nick, we had to jump into the beat up on Jeff segment here. So
that's a normal segment.
It was a diversionary attack, Nick, to save you.
It's a normal segment, right?
Yeah, if we ever start a show, it's going to be part of it. So.
Hey, all right. So
hold on. We were talking about rules, Todd. Wait a minute. Because I wanted to implement something there. All right, so I'm holding the 3.0 rules. Okay. I want you to answer two things here. Let's take the easy one first.
Don't quiz me.
No. This is a quiz.
I sent. Hey, hold on, Nick. I sent Jeff the note. You saying I'm not a 3.0 expert, but he doesn't care.
Yep,
he doesn't care.
Fine.
Hey,
that's fine.
I just design the games.
Okay, but you can help. I think you can help with this one.
Feel free to beat up on Jeff too. So don't.
The first one is in the introduction of the 3.0 rules. These rules are essentially the same as they have been in earlier versions, okay? And then the last sentence is changes from 2.0 are read to be easy. Just your general knowledge, what has actually changed other than maybe implementing a few ideas?
I think it was mostly a lot of verbiage changes. I think there were some people had issues with the order system, I think, because it was a little ambiguous as to how things would happen after certain events and things. So there's a new order ending process that's been implemented that's kind of streamlined and gives you hard factual things that happen when an order ends. Defensive orders is a new thing, whereas in version 2.0, any unit that didn't have attack or move orders would have just been automatically under what's called no orders. No orders is now, if you get attacked, it's like detrimental to you. It affects your command radius. A defensive order is what it is. It's a defensive order. Move here, defend. You can fight at full capacity. There's a couple other just very minor things, I would say. The big one that I noticed first off is the charts. The charts changed. So Dean totally redid all of the charts. They used to be column based. You'd have column shifts, whereas now it's all going to be modifiers, and then you make a die roll and you add up the modifiers. The results are relatively the same, but that was a change. And if I'm being completely honest, that's difficult for a player like me because I had the other chart memorized. I mean, I was like rolling and never even had to look at the chart ever. So that was a kind of something that's taken me some time to get over that hurdle of I got to reconfigure modifiers and things. So
the SPI way was column shift, die roll modifier, right? So that's two directions. And Dean and I, we have talked. Dean and I had this conversation in the past, and you don't have to. He just started to do it with die roll modifiers, and Rebel Fury I did it with column shifts. But we decided that one was better than two, because it does the same, mathematically identical. I mean, you can get it to.
Yeah, and people want to push counters.
One thing you don't have to remember, and that's a big deal in a game as complex as a regimental Civil War game.
Yeah,
and I'm no different. I think about it. People want to push counters, and they want to see that went forward, this went backwards. I made this gain. I mean, but in the line of battle, another thing I like too is no matter what order assignment, attack, defend, no orders, you can still fight whatever. You can do whatever within the command as long as you stay within the command radius of that headquarters unit or whatever. Which that's a cool implementation. And I like the fact that and let's go back to this leaders moving around the battlefield. All right. The headquarters was probably sitting somewhere stationary. And I like the fact that an order will get sent from, Bobby Lee down to First Corps to Longstreet. Longstreet's out riding around the battlefield. He's not looking to send the order directly to Longstreet because he may not know where he is. So let's send it to that headquarters. Well, Longstreet's not going to get that order in line of battle until he goes back and hits that headquarters and gets that order given to him. I think that's a great function of the game. But in general, and this is an opinion question. This isn't this is the way it is. Is it safe enough for players to play the game and get a good result just using radius and not orders?
I mean, you could.
Would your game? Would that? I mean, how much would that degrade the game if they weren't using orders?
I guess I don't know how would you spur your formations to function properly? Just by moving them willy-nilly with full knowledge without having to roll for the fluke and do all that stuff?
Okay. All right. Well,
I think that the perfect knowledge, I mean, could, but I don't think it would reflect ACW combat. Okay. Maybe is the way that I would phrase that. I mean, if you wanted to, you could throw a chit in for every leader and just play a chit poll. I mean, that would maybe work, but
then we're playing GBACW, so.
But with better rules.
What's happening?
Okay. By the way, we have Dick Whitaker on the line right here.
Good talking to you guys.
Good answer, Dick. Good answer.
Wait a minute.
Oh, there you go.
He heard that.
That's funny.
All right, we're gonna wait for the comments coming.
That was a layup. You had to give that to me.
Damn, first night on the show, and he's already slamming Hexy around. So.
Wait a minute. That should have drawn out Stigler. So Stigler's not on here tonight. That would have brought him out.
Oh yeah, that'll get him fired up.
I'll get a comment later from him.
What I want to do real quick, again, just to kind of help me understand the game. Hexy, let's share the screen. What I want to do is just kind of look at. I'm so glad you have this command tree. Let's, I don't know, you choose, Nick, the best way to look at this. I don't know. I just want to look at some counters. What's the information on, we've already discussed the counters are regiments and leaders and stuff, I guess. So I just want to understand like what I'm seeing on the counters and how the kind of like how the leadership work. This is probably good because they're all kind of.
Yeah. So just go over to the Confederate side and pick one of those kind of brigades that's out on its own and zoom in on one of those.
All right. Okay. Hold on. A little closer. Then I can also like, hover over it, and we'll stick with this guy. Is he a good one to talk about?
Yeah, so he's perfectly fine. So
Right,
this is
hold
the
on.
southern flank of the Confederate Army.
Okay.
On top, you got 2 leaders stacked there with a regiment.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to slide this over so I can kind of see this. All right, so who are we talking about? We're talking about Anderson.
Yep.
So that's this right here, Anderson Division.
Yep. So Anderson is a divisional leader, and right now he's stacked with Powell. You'll see Powell is what we call a 0 rated leader. So that's going to be his command rating. The first rating you see on the counter is going to be the command rating. That is used for functions regarding receiving orders, giving orders, taking initiative to react to things. And if you're a brigade leader and you're a 0 leader, it also affects your movement, like I talked about earlier, where you have to make the die roll. So he's not a great leader. He's got Anderson stacked with him.
What's the right number mean again?
So the right number is going to be their leadership. That's going to be used for morale checks, certain game-specific rules, and things like that. Typically, if you're stacked with a leader and you're taking fire combat, it's going to be a modifier that benefits you when you're looking for your result.
Okay. So
you'll see the little the IC counter that's stacked on top of them. That's going to be different than the game when it's published. We have different looking counters at this point. Right. Obviously, this is just the vassal, but that's going to signify that Powell is an independent command. So what that's going to mean in this specific game is that Powell is probably under orders to do something specific that will take him outside of his standard command radius and command structure. Powell's going to be able to operate essentially entirely on his own. He's going to roll for fluke stoppage on his own. He's going to do everything on his own outside of what the rest of the division is doing. That's really one of the key themes to design, is taking the normal command structure and breaking it down into all these workable parts. And I think players will find that to be really interesting.
Yeah.
If you look at the regiment that's underneath him, you've got the 24th Mississippi. He's Powell's brigade under Anderson. The R8, the R is going to signify that he has rifles, which allows him a range of up to 4 hexes.
Okay.
The 8 is going to signify his strength in line of battle. Every SP for infantry is 50 effectives, so that's essentially going to be a regiment of 400 men. And you'll see his state icon and then also his morale rating. So his morale rating is a B. In line of battle, morale ratings are going to be A through E. Typically, some of the old RSS games have Fs. I don't know that we have any LOB games right now that have any Fs. E's pretty bad. Obviously, that's going to be like a green unit or a raw unit, or somebody who performed terribly. And A is going to be your crack units, the Iron Brigade. In Perryville, the Confederates have 2 brigades that were what I would consider crack outfits, especially for this early in the war. The Union, on the other hand, their regiments, if you go over to their side, you're going to see they have a lot of units that are surrounded with a green border on their counters.
Oh, boy.
I'm guessing you can guess what that signifies.
Yeah, the D's as well.
These are going to, a lot of these regiments were raised a month or 2 prior to this battle and had basically no combat experience, no training, and they were given castaway weaponry. So they are going to be somewhat of a liability if they get involved in combat. Green rules in line of battle restrict them to certain things. Obviously, I don't have to get into all of that, but know that they're not going to be as good as a unit that's not green.
Yeah, I like these counters. It's very clear once you, especially side by side with this command tree, you can start to understand who's under who, and regiments and all that stuff. This is really cool. Yeah, shoot, that's great. And when you talk about commanders running around and giving orders, are they literally moving the counter around, or what's the command range, or how's that work?
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely going to be moving around. I have a special rule that's Inferno and the Bluegrass only, where if you have a leader who is stacked with a brigade leader and you'd like to make him an independent command and you make a command roll and he can give an order, that order is going to be instantly accepted if they're co-located in the hex. So that means that player needs to be very cognizant every turn of with what he's doing with his upper level commanders. Same thing with the Union, though, too. They have the same ability to do that. They're just going to be using it in a different way than the Confederate player. Most of the impetus for the attack, at least in the historical situation, is going to be on the Confederates. If we go to, if I showed you the hypothetical scenario that starts, I guess not hypothetical, it's a historical start, but it's early in the morning. If you would go to the 6.7 start scenario, you'll see how different that looks. That's going to be an entirely different situation where once the Federal Army arrives on the field, they're going to have the ability to really push, and they're going to be more of the aggressor in that situation.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So you kind of get a little bit of both, just depending on, are you looking at the historical? Do you want to play something that, I would use the term sandboxy. It's going to be a little bit more open, more swirling. You're going to have a lot of different moving parts. If you decide to add in Jones Withers Brigade or Division, which we have as an optional, that changes the victory conditions slightly. So there's a lot of different things going on, and there's a lot of different things for whatever you're looking for in a game, whether it's short or quick or hypothetical or historical. We try to kind of hit all the buttons.
All right, so we had a question here. I don't know if you can see it. We talked about the acoustic shadow earlier, and so Kevin, maybe we can just touch on it real quick again. He might have missed out on that. How do you deal with the acoustic shadow?
Yeah, so the acoustic shadow is essentially part of the awareness of the Union command. So Union commanders, specifically Buell, Gilbert, and Sheridan, are all required to become alert before they're able to react to anything on the battlefield. So
start, Kevin.
Yep, different start times. They start making rolls. There's different modifiers depending on how the battle's progressed, what's going on. And it's different every game. So it's a little bit out of your control. You don't know what's going to happen. How do you play as a player if in 5 turns you think maybe Sheridan's going to be able to issue an order to a brigade to come reinforce, or maybe he won't? It leaves a little bit of uncertainty, which you have to have, I think, when you have something like an acoustic shadow that has to be modeled.
Hey, Nick, I got to ask you a question. I mean, because I'm just looking at the math of this thing. How, you've played it a lot of times, obviously. How many times out of, 10 would you say that a Corps or like Sheridan or Gilbert don't even get into the battle at all because you can't roll an 11 plus?
So I think most of the time, if you're playing the historical or like the very early start historical scenario, you're going to get a brigade or 2 involved. To get the entire Corps involved is very unlikely. There's just not going to be enough time by the end of the battle to be able to mobilize everybody. If you're lucky, Sheridan might be able to start getting some orders off earlier than he did historically. That's obviously what you're hoping for. And, you could always just say, I want to play the game and not use the alertness rules and just see what happens, and it could be totally different. But I would say, 8 times out of 10, you're probably going to get at least a brigade or 2 moving. But I don't know that we ever saw the entire Corps get moving with enough time to be able to do something. I think we had them maybe under an order but it's so late in the day and you've got darkness that there's just not enough time for them to really have an effect on the battle.
All right, we're kind of nearing end time. I would like to talk about your I mean, there's a whole bunch of other questions I want to ask about the play of this, but let's ask about like where does this game stand as far as like play testing and all that stuff. Obviously, it's reached its pre-order number. We've linked it in the thing. Go to mmpgamers.com. It's in the pre-order page, so it's going to get printed. It's going to get made. Anyway, so where are you in this? And then let's talk a little bit about future work, and then the guys want to talk about something about Gettysburg. So
yeah, so this one's pretty much. We're done.
Okay.
This was 8 years of me doing the research and tweaking things, and going back to it and getting dragged back into it, and Chris taking over the development. I think it's as good as we can get it. I think at this point, and I think everybody's really happy with where it's at. I'm really proud of it, to be honest. Never thought that it would come to anything, so. It's cool. But we've got a good play testing team in Line of Battle, and Chris is kind of spearheading most of that. It's another design that I've worked on, and I didn't have it nearly as far down the line as I did Inferno and the Bluegrass, but right now we're doing This Bloody Hill, which is Champion Hill. So we're looking at May of 1863. Totally different battle. Totally different setup.
That's another one that there's not. I mean, CWBS has it. Herman Lutman has his Shattered Union or whatever simple game on it. But and Mark, you're fixing to go west too, right?
Yeah, but remember, we're talking about different scales. I sit between all the tactical systems and GCACW, so it's just a different thing. I mean, there's no way. It's a different narrative. You're the narrative of an army commander, not a core, that's all core and below stuff. I'm at the army level, and so there's really not really. I mean, it is the ACW, but
yeah. Well, there's just not enough. There's not enough coverage out. I think it's a plus.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to cover these things. Every time you cover a game at a different level, you get a different lens into the situation. So they all give you something in the narrative, but it's a different narrative. That's my point.
Is speaking of Champion Hill, is that going to be like a predecessor to others? Because there's a lot more, around there with the whole campaign.
So I think Champion Hill is just going to be. We're going to focus strictly on Champion Hill. I know you've got like Raymond, and you've got Big Black Bridge right there. There's you got a lot that kind of is within that campaign. But I don't know. I think. Champion Hill Line of Battle is going to fit that better rather than trying to work it into some of these other battles. There's other stuff going on that we kind of have, in the works behind that. I had a ton of designs. I mean, I had like 7 or 8 designs that I did for 4 years. I mean, that's all I did. That's all I gamed. I rarely gamed anything else other than just designing these games. So
could those might see the light of day sometime, or are they? I mean,
I think maybe. So. I was very Western theater focused and smaller battle. So
sure.
Well, let me ask you a question. So, okay, and rest his soul, Dean being gone, but Dean, his hands were in everything that was MMP. Chris, you're talking about his specific focus is Line of Battle, right?
Yep.
So maybe this is okay, because I've always said this. I mean, like I say, I didn't love the system when I first started, but I still have all those games. I had no intention of ever letting them go. And I always felt that it was a shame that there was not more. So maybe this is the spark the system needed. Let's get this first one out there. Let's get one that's playable, that, like I say, it doesn't have to be on the table for 3 months. And the way you're talking, it sounds to me, and I mean, we're seeing the same thing with GBACW, that there's 4, 5, 6 more possibly in the background that could start to show up. So
other way.
Other way?
Yeah.
Okay, I got him over here. I got Phil over here. He's
Phil. Yeah, Phil's on the other side.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely seems like there's been a renaissance, I would say, with people going to some of these battles. I know GBACW has a ton of stuff going on right now that's in development, and I know there's the whole Vicksburg thing, and there's the stuff that's out in the Trans-Mississippi, and that's cool. I mean, I love that. It's cool. I don't think
Phil.
You hear doom and gloom, but
Phil,
me and cousin TJ, we love this resurgence.
Hey, Alan, turn off Hexy's camera. All right, Phil, what's going on in the GBCW side, like that you can talk about?
That I know about. Well, Ray's doing the Ozarks, doing Trans-Mississippi, and then we got Alex doing the Unvexed to the Sea, which is all of the Vicksburg and the smaller battles, and then the Atlanta campaign is being worked.
Another one that's not touching up.
That's cool.
And I'm doing Chickamauga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm waiting on, Phil?
What?
Somebody to cover the freaking 7 days in GBACW.
Well, the last I heard, Stigler was starting to do that one.
Just for the record, I just did it. I just did 7 days.
All right, Mark. Thanks, buddy.
Been covered.
Other side.
Yeah. So that's the latest I know. And actually, wait a minute. I got Dick's email here.
Dang. Well, while he's looking that up, I mean, I don't know if Chris would be open to coming on here. I wondered. I don't know anything about him, but we'll just talk about it live here.
Oh yeah, he's a good dude.
Okay.
I was going to comment because he's so busy doing this now. He's not coming to my battle walks anymore.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's always sending me pictures. He's like, "Oh, I'm at a convent or a speaker and stuff."
Mark, your screen is I can't see anything. I don't know what's going on. Just kidding.
And by the way, 7 days battle. So look, we're all going to cover the same ground. There's only one war.
Yeah. Everything I mentioned is in Dick's email. So.
Okay.
You're right. There is. There's so much. I mean, I'd love to see Line of Battle just start booming again with multiple games. I agree. I know they take a little time to write, and there's probably not a ton of you all that are working on this stuff. So, and the GBACW, and now with the simple GBACW, Mark stuff that's coming out. I mean, we've got such a mass variety right now of systems, and it's just don't stop. Let the World War I game people go do their thing. Give me this ACW stuff, and give me some East Front World War II, and I'm just tickled pink. So
yeah. Nick, do you feel like this next design that you're working on is? Can you tell it's already going to go faster just because of your experience? MMP's got the energy for it now and all that.
Yeah, I think it's
not 8 years.
We knew how to approach it with Inferno and the Bluegrass. We had roadblocks that were more than just developing a game for a series, because we were taking a game that was designed for a previous version of the rules, and we had to use the new version of the rules. And that was a hurdle that we had to get over with the development team, was transferring a game that was made for 2.0 and making sure that it worked just fine with 3.0. And there's not a lot of changes, but there are changes that are significant enough that it required us to look at it critically and make some choices and do some things. So I would say that knowing that the rules are the way they are now with this Bloody Hill it's been, I feel like the play testing has gone faster because we're focused on the game and the battle, not the series rules.
Okay.
Per se.
Cool. Yeah, well, the good question I'd ask, and I don't want to go because we need to talk about Gettysburg and get out of here because we lost Charles. It's 86 in his room. He's watching this, and I don't even know how he's surviving that. But
yeah, I know Charles stuck out for a long time.
The question I would have though is talk about terrain, but we don't have time, and then kind of how you rate units by looking at all that stuff. But that's another future discussion for another. We'll have you on when the game comes out.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's what I was going to say when it comes. But I figure maybe like 3 weeks after the game's done its shipping. We need to drag you back on here.
We could do a box opening.
Unless it gets bad reviews, then you guys will never hear from me again.
No,
I'm probably done gaming.
I can't see that.
No, we'll bring you back on to voice your opinion of the reviewers.
Yeah.
I always threaten Chris. I'm like, I'm out. If it's no good, I'm out.
Andrew and I have been known to burn games on camera,
I gotta
so
tell you
we'll do
something.
that with your game
Let
if
me
it's
tell you one
terrible.
thing. If you rely on the opinion of reviewers for anything, then you are just, you might as well talk to your 3-year-old and get ideas to fix your car. I mean,
his game with Alan and I is the prime example of something that Al and I, we struggled and we weren't real fond of the system. And then Mark shows up and we learned what the system was based on. It would be cool, now that you're back in with this stuff here, that once you're, this one's out and which I know won't take you long, you're comfortable with the way, which I will say it's cool that the rules have only gone one version change in how many years, so, and from what I'm seeing, it's not necessarily a big change, but
Right.
that's kind of cool that's,
I think the biggest change is the charts, and that's just another way of doing. They made them more streamlined, but they do the same thing.
Yep.
Oh, that's a good question. Any time frame at all on the release on it, Nick, that you know of, or that someone's asking? Yeah, and there's a lot.
No, it's all way above my pay grade.
It's all in production.
Yeah, it's all in production, and they're learning stuff. Okay, all right. I think Nick, that's been awesome. Hexy, what do you guys want to talk about? What's going on?
I got one question that's going to lead us into the next topic here.
Oh, perfect.
Nick, what are you doing October 19th?
Oh,
You want to come to Gettysburg? You want to come to Gettysburg?
I might be in Indianapolis at a game convention.
Oh.
I might be. I might be.
Jeff, I tried.
We have been a year. It was a year ago that we opened this up.
Hey, come on, he's a young dad. Give him a break. Jesus Christ.
You just said a gaming convention. I know which one he's talking about. Come on now. Anyway.
I might pop in for a day.
This has been set up now. We started this a year ago, and I was skeptical that we'd even have 5 or 6 people that were going to be there, but I'm thinking we're looking already now at 20 to 25. I've had 4 or 5 emails that people have already booked their hotels. All of you out there that know this in Nordic, I'm telling you, don't disappoint me. I will send Alan and a hit team to drag your ass out of your house to Gettysburg. But we're going to be there on the 19th. The 21st is the rain out date in case the 19th is bad. I haven't checked the Farmer's Almanac yet. So we had a little meeting the other night with me and Phil and Alan about the game plan for this. And they're putting together hopefully with about 2 weeks to go before 2 weeks out, we'll have a PDF that we'll give all y'all so y'all can see what our agenda is. I will give you the basic plan of what we're doing. Is we're changing the meetup. We're going to meet at the History Center, which we will make sure. Is that right? History Center?
Heritage Center.
Heritage Center, which we will make sure everybody knows where that is. We will start at 9:00. We're going to do. The initial plan is McPherson's Ridge area, probably down Seminary, maybe over to. I want to go to Warfield Ridge. I made that clear that I want to see the starting points for the second day attack. Probably we're going to skip off to a buffet for lunch, and then we're going to come back in. We'll maybe with the little Round Tops, Devil's Den, Peach Orchard. I want to see. I got to go to the Peach Orchard. Whatever you guys want to do.
It's on the list.
And then the high water mark, and then to top it all off, Phil has claimed a conference room or get together room at the Heritage Center.
Correct.
For an hour at the end of it, so you guys can Q&A Mark, Q&A Phil, Q&A us. If you want to know, what kind of socks I wear, we'll answer all those questions for about an hour at the end of the day. And hopefully we all, we the big thing here is that one, you get something out of this. Phil will be there, Mark will be there to answer questions. I know that Al and I, we're not historians and tour guides, but we're not too shabby with that stuff. And we make some good relationships, and we can tie that all together in gaming after this is all.
When you say the Heritage Center, Phil, where's the Heritage Center? What's the address?
It's on Steinway Avenue, and it is 297 Steinway Avenue. It's right next to Appalachian Brewing Company, and right next to the Best Western. Right across the street from, I believe, is the Quality Inn.
Yeah. How's the Wyndham? Is the Wyndham far from there?
The Wyndham's still there. Yep. It's still there.
It was
Still nice.
from that location.
Say again.
You're about
from Steinware, you know, where this meetup, the Heritage Center.
You're maybe about 2 miles, 2.5 miles.
Yeah.
Mark.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the
Not that
plan.
far.
It will be executed.
Yep.
We are getting prepared for it. We will make sure that you all have a very knowledgeable day touring the battlefield. Unfortunately, we can't see everything. Those of you that are coming and staying, taking a vacation, you can venture out on your own. Make sure that when you see Phil on the 19th, if you have some things you want to go see after the fact, that you quiz him to know where to go and how to get to him. I'm sure he'll be glad to help. He only charges like $85 a minute for his tour session. Okay, so
I gotta make a living.
right. The only thing that we considered that I don't want to say it's a sticking point because I'm very positive that it's not going to be, but like I say, there's no bus rental, there's no minivans or nothing. If you're coming and you have a car that you can put a couple people in, because we're going to be a little bit of a caravan going around there, that you do it. Phil will make sure that we know where we're going to park, where we're going to stop, and where we're going to chat. And guys, I'm telling you, this is a golden opportunity to have people that can answer questions to you about Gettysburg and probably the Civil War just in general are going to be there. Use it, abuse it, whatever you got to do. Just don't turn either one of these guys away from us because we need them. So, but 19th of October, 9 o'clock, Heritage Center is where we'll meet, and we'll get you all a PDF on that. Nick, you don't know how long I've been wanting to do this. Ever since I saw this, I didn't know how to get hold of you other than a couple comments you made in my YouTube channel. Like I say, thank God Todd did, that you two knew each other. And I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you, we want to get you back on again.
Yeah. Hopefully I didn't disappoint you.
Not a chance, brother. Not a chance.
I'm sure we got 2 more orders on your game. I'm going to just say we got those because it started out the show at 475, 477 now. So
we got to do this every night.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to double that pre-order number.
I got my game on the P500 over on the last show, so it's all good.
Everybody's winning. We're all winners tonight. You never leave a hot table.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And definitely. We'll push it. I know the first chance I get to see this thing, which you have any issues with Todd, give me your email so I can contact you.
No,
okay.
Absolutely.
There you go. Mikey placed his pre-order. So that's a plus
nice.
right there. And
there we go.
I think you picked the right one to start to sort of refresh this system. I think this is going to be a good one to get people going back into it. Because if you tried to jump right in and produce a 4-day game, probably not so much the interest.
$48, by the way. $48. And how many scenarios? 6, 7 scenarios?
7 scenarios. Yep. 2 mapper, but you can play quite a few of the scenarios on one or the other. So there's none of the scenarios, I don't think, maybe one scenario uses sections of both other than the campaigns. So
yeah, that's a nice entry price nowadays. Games are getting expensive. So this is cool.
Yeah. Heck yeah. So get over there. Get over and get your pre-orders in now, guys. Don't wait. Don't miss. I mean, we went down this road with some of you all in 3 Dog where you didn't pre-order a $63 game that's now over $100. Don't mess around. Get over and get that number up there and get this thing into production for everybody to play. Because I'm telling you, my interest in LOB it's peaked again. And like I said, I got 2 scenarios sitting up behind me right now. So, and I dibble and dabble with it every now and then trying to refresh myself with the rules. So again, Nick, thanks for coming on here, man. And
absolutely,
we're going to track you down again, no doubt about that. So.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Talk to y'all later. Thanks for being here tonight.
See ya. See ya.
Peace out.
Speaking of let's go.